Ministering Angels by Lori A. Thompson. Chapter 6. Malachi Unveiled. I had a dream. It seemed to have lasted all night long. It was night and I was in the middle of the ocean alone. I was treading water, looking around. I saw our island very far away. I turned behind me. It was the moon. It was strange. It felt like a person. It had a presence and it felt like it was talking to me. I could feel it behind me, asking me to look at it. It was a full moon. It was so bright. When I looked over the water, it was as if a path of light was showing me where to go. Then I was looking at myself in the dream. I saw myself deep underwater. I was calm. I could breathe the water. Then just before I woke, I saw a stone turned over at the bottom of the ocean. The light from the moon beamed through the water and narrowed, pointing right on the stone. I woke up with the words imprinted on the stone on the forefront of my mind. It all seemed so real. I sat up in bed and the feeling stayed with me. I knew at that moment that on the next full moon, I would find that stone. Everything in the night was exactly as my dream, everything except I was not ready for what might happen to the island if I brought the stone back. Joshua unties the pouch from his side, slips open the top of the bag, and dumps the stone in his hand. Boys rush over and hover over the top of him. Even Brad, sitting next to Joshua, is ignored. The boys act like he's invisible. Brad gets frustrated from the shoving. He stands up and orders everybody back. Give us room. You will all get to see it. Let Joshua finish his story. Joshua speaks up. I think I've told you all everything about my night. I don't know what the marking means. Maybe Aiden can tell me how I got back to the island. What about the animals? A voice hollers out, up and over all the commotion. All the stirring stops and the boys turn in an attempt to follow the echo. Still sitting on the opposite side of the fire is Malachi. Malachi grabs his stick and wrestles with it to stand. He walks around the fire to face Joshua directly. Joshua looks up to respond. Joshua speaks directly. You speak of no animals, no words for many seasons, Malachi. Who are you to question my decision? I was waiting for you, replied Malachi. Without your testimony, the darkness could never be lifted. Who says we're in the dark? We have all we need. The truth may set us free, but at whose cost? Questions Joshua. It's not up to you to decide what these boys deserve in life. You hold the truth to one piece, just one piece of the puzzle. There's more to come. You chose to be a part of the unveiling when you dove into that water. Do not rob these boys of their opportunities. Why didn't you tell them? Asked Joshua. Malachi looks down at his leg and then up again at Joshua. We all know why, Joshua. Malachi's eyes change as his glance turns into a stare. As he shifts his focus from Joshua to the fire, his memory of that day floods into view. I was just enjoying the day being out in the ocean, farther than anyone else had gone. I saw the looks on your faces. Malachi turns and looks back at Joshua and Andrew. I saw the fear in your eyes as I got closer to the dark shadows and ripples in front of me. It actually made me want to go farther. It made me want to be braver than you guys. Malachi looks down. I am sorry. I regret what I did. Brad places his hand on his shoulder. We missed you, Malachi. It is through you and Joshua that we learn what bravery is. It is through your willingness to follow those urges that we all benefit from your knowledge. Please, share. Malachi gazes back into the fire. Joshua, you know what I saw. A memory flashes before his eyes, looking at each other. It is as if they are remembering simultaneously. The empty field between the two reveals a quick glimpse of their experience, rushing in a channel of water, along with a quick thought of them realizing how far out they were. Malachi's face changes to fear as Josh seems to see the ocean through his eyes. Joshua remembers he kicked and moved his arms to stay afloat. Josh's toe hit what felt like a solid force. He curiously stretched his foot out farther on the next kick. The strength of the current grabbed hold of his foot, and under he went. His body was caught in a fast-flowing underwater movement. Scared and panicked, he stroked and stroked in a frantic attempt to maneuver his body, but the force was too strong. Drawn down deeper into the rush, his feet suddenly buckled beneath him when his butt hit a large moving animal. His feet and butt slid along its back. He felt back hitting his head, and as he reached the end of the animal's body, its tail flipped him, then he rolled off. Joshua tumbled. It was almost like he forgot he was underwater as his hands reached for something to hold on to. His hand skimmed across another moving animal, his nails instinctively trying to dig in and grab hold. He got the sense of their tough, somewhat slippery, textured skin. His body rolled again as the side of another animal's body swiftly swam by. He moved from the force of the water, and he could feel the pressure on his lungs as he resisted the desire of his body to gasp. In a moment of realization, Josh breaks out of his thoughts and asks Aiden with his inquisitive look, "How did we breathe? How is that possible?" Not skipping a moment, Joshua's thoughts begin again, watching as his body rolled from the force of the animal's side and moved with the force of the water. His eyes were wide open as the animals bumped him around in the deep ocean. Breaking out again, he asked Aiden, "How many of them do you think there were?" "I don't know, Josh," Malachi responds. "They surrounded me as far as I could see. They were moving me. The whole experience scared me quiet. I didn't want to think about it, let alone talk about it. I guess I didn't even realize I was breathing underwater until now. I hurt my legs soon after I went under." "How did you get hurt? Did one of them bite you?" Joshua asked with curiosity. No, well, I guess I had always thought it was a bite. Now that I think about it, I caught the undertow with my foot, and actually, I think that one of them just had their mouth open. Bad timing, I guess. I was pulled under, and then I felt my leg hit something firm. I got knocked out of the way by one of them, and all I saw was the water turning red, and that my leg was the source. I must have passed out when I saw it floating next to me. It dangled like bait off a hook. It all happened so quickly, all because I was trying to show off. I woke up scared and humiliated. I just couldn't face it. Malachi, you were brave, and it's because of you that we learned of the season. You gave us information for our survival." "Well, now we have different information, don't we?" Malachi responds. Yes, we do," Joshua agrees. "The stone will give us answers. It's a clue." "Not just that, the movement, Josh," Malachi exclaims. "What do you mean?" "I mean, yeah, we know what's making that river like current in the water. They must migrate the same path every year. Imagine how many there must have been. The ripples are present for days," Joshua remarks. "Yes, that's part of it. The season changes when they come. what if it was more to it than that? What about the force that dragged us under? What about it? Joshua asks. Well, just seems like it could drag just about anything that was in its path. Like what? You have something in mind? What? Joshua persists. It sounds crazy. But the island, Malachi answers hesitantly. Malachi, Joshua pauses to take in his idea. The island. But Malachi, everything always looks the same. The sun rises and sets in the same spot. The water hole is always in the same spot. Yeah, but we have no other frame of reference. Malachi continues to push the idea. Nathan shoves his way through the boys who are sitting closest to Joshua and Malachi. He takes Malachi's stick and draws in the sand. It's totally possible, guys. He draws a circle. Now this is the island, and this X is what our lookout sees. You know, from that frame of reference. This right here, Nathan draws another circle. This is the water hole. He then draws a circle around the water hole. We could quite literally be circling this water hole, Nathan remarks, looking up with a smile, proud of his comments. Joe speaks up over the banter. He's completely disgusted with his expressed opinions. You have got to be kidding me. So we circle this hole and everything looks the same, so we can't tell we're moving. How convenient. What would keep us from spinning? I don't get it. I don't know, responds Malachi. I don't think anyone knows for sure. What I do know is those animals come every year. Every single year. Now our seasons are shortening. Can you explain that, Joe? It's getting more difficult every year to make sure we have meat and water as a supply. Even the fruit has become sparser. They just don't get the long season like they used to. When Malachi pauses, he sustains a long pause as the boys remain silent in anticipation. They can feel the room thicken with thought. Then slowly Malachi talks. When? Why? Why don't we talk about when? When what? Joe yells, completely impatient. Exactly. When anything. When we were born, for starters. How do we know so much, yet we don't know where we got the information? We don't know where we came from. When did we start counting seasons? I don't know how old I am, but I don't know when I came here. If there is a stone at the bottom of the ocean with markings, when did it get there? If it was our first time being out there, then how did it get there, and who put the markings on the stone? How did it get into the middle of our perspective? Malachi yells back. We're always looking forward. I think it's about time we start looking back. I don't see the point in it. No matter what we find, it doesn't change what I do today. I'll still have to tend to the fire, the boys, and hunting, just as I've always done. We're still on this island. The water hole is still right there, and the moon and the sun are the center of my universe, Joe barks on. This is a waste of time, and I've given it all the attention it deserves. Actually, more than enough. I've had enough of this nonsense talk. I have to get up early, so do the rest of the hunters. I suggest they all head to their own caves. One by one, the hunters gather their items, clean up their areas, and head off to their rooms. The moment wanes as the fire dies down and everyone shifts off to bed, except Malachi, Nathan, Joshua, and Brad. They sit in silence, each reviewing the evening as it unfolded. The boys stare at the end of Nathan's stick as he pokes at the coals, making sparks. Brad turns his head and looks at Joshua and says, I still don't know how you found the stone. Joshua answers plainly, it was just like my dream. A light pointed directly at it. Joshua remembers in an instant grabbing the stone as the water rushed by him. I saw it and grabbed it, like I'd done it before. I was so frantic, yet when my eyes followed the light to the stone, everything slowed down. When I had the stone, I caught a current that directed me to the top. I broke free of the force somehow. I just remember kicking and swimming so hard, thinking I had to make it to the top. It really was like a dream, now that I look back. I was so terrified, but I knew that it was all going to work out. Even as I was being tossed around by those large animals, my mind was slow, and I thought, this is how it's supposed to happen. I don't understand any of it, but it does make me think that we're supposed to find out more about ourselves. Just seems like we're going to discover more. I don't know, like we're getting help somehow. Brad listens intently and then interjects. Maybe Nathan isn't the only one with a gift. Maybe he's not the only one that sees. I want to hear of any dreams that you have, no matter how insignificant you think they are. Joe is up on his ledge out in front of his bedroom cave. He sees the boys stand, shake hands, and finally disperse. Shaking his head, he turns to make his way to his room along with everybody else. He thinks of the morning hunt and how tired he will be. He becomes instantly irritated when he thinks of whether he's going to get anything accomplished. Not only will the boys be tired, but he will also have to deal with their dreamy minds. Purely a distraction, Joe affirms to himself. He thinks of how much effort the last hunt took, then stops in his tracks. He thinks of the large boy and then remembers Malachi's concern for not asking questions. He remembers being in the cave, seeing the large boy for the first time. He remembers wondering where he came from. I'm going to go find that boy again, he says to himself under his breath. Quickly, Joe begins to argue with himself. They got me. What am I thinking? Go back to that large boy? What do I care where or how he got in that cave? What do I care if I ever see him again? It won't solve a thing. The boys are relying on me. That is more important than my need to answer that stupid question of where that large boy came from. Joe begins to walk again, blows out his candle. With one last shake of his head, he lies down to the end of the day. End of chapter 6.